grade. It's our last day of estimating today, and we are going to round this up with a bang. I'm kind of excited for this work today. Let's go ahead and get our learning target ready and see how it's different from what we've been doing. I can estimate the length of an object using other objects. Now, this is different, right? We are still estimating, right? So we're making an educated guess based on benchmarks that we already know. Yesterday and the day before, we were using our body benchmarks. We were using our pinkies, our thumbs, our arms, our stretching out, right? So we were using those benchmarks to help us make an estimate. And we did need to be precise when we were measuring so that our estimate and our actual were as close as possible. Sometimes they matched up pretty close. Sometimes they were off by a little bit. As long as they're close, that's what matters the most, okay? But we're estimating the length of an object today using other objects. Now, this is how our work's a little different. We're actually going to be using some objects that we already know how long they are because we used our body benchmarks and double checked it yesterday and the day before. And we're going to use that to make a good estimate with new objects today, okay? So we're going to be measuring a couple different things. One, we're going to be measuring a marker, estimating it, and then doing the actual. We're going to be measuring our notebook. We're actually measuring this part, your math notebook, okay? And then I'm going to pose a problem to you, and we're going to see what this estimation challenge is, okay? So we're going to start off with a marker. That is our first launch, and I am going to put a number 1 here, and I'm going to actually, we're going to make a guess, but I'm going to put this marker up here. I chose a marker, my friends, because I bet that you have markers at home that you can do the same kind of practicing with, right? So I'm trying to choose objects that I know you have at home that you can do right along with me. You don't have to be here with me in my space to be able to do this work. Not only that, you can go and practice this work with anything you're doing, with any other objects around your house. So I wanted to choose objects that I know that you can use at home or in the classroom if that's where you are. So whether you're using a marker like this marker is a little bit longer, so your estimation might be a little different, okay? And that's all right. You are estimating based on the object that you are using, okay? So this is the marker that I'm going to use. And I am going to use my Post-it note. Now, yesterday, I told you that when I was looking at my Post-it note and I was using my body benchmark, I said, I think that this Post-it is about 2 inches wide because it's about 2 thumb lengths. But I never did double check it. So I need to do that first before we get started. Thankfully, it's sticky. So I'm going to start it at my 0. And I'm going to see about how long it is. And what do you guys notice? 1, 2. It's about 2 inches. My body benchmark didn't let me down, did it? This is my 2-inch Post-it note. Now, if I know that this Post-it note is 2 inches long, then I can make a guess about how long my marker is. So if my Post-it note is about 2 inches long, then I think that my marker is a little more than 4 inches long. It might even be about 5 inches long. And I say that because it looks like I can get 2 full Post-its here and 1 part Post-it. So I'm going to guess that my marker, my estimate, okay, not just any estimate, an educated estimate. This is 2 inches, okay? And I'm going to make sure that I write that down. My Post-it equals 2 inches. If my Post-it is 2 inches, then I think, and I'm going to label it as an estimate, then I think my marker is 5 inches. And I told you why, and I'm going to say it again. I think my marker is going to be about 5 inches long because if I put my Post-it note up here, I have 1 full one, a second full one, and then part of a second one. And if it's 2 inches, it looks like it's about 1 more inch, about half of my third Post-it note. So I think it's going to be 2 full Post-its. 2 and 2 is 4. And then half of another Post-it, which was 1 more, which 4 and 1 more is 5. So I think my estimate is 5 inches. Now, my actual, let's find out. My actual length of my marker, and I can measure either my actual marker or I can measure my line up here. My actual, if I started at my 0, so I can hold it up for y'all. My actual, it starts at the 0, and look, it's about 4.5. So is it pretty close? Yeah. My actual is about 4.5 inches. So my actual and my estimate are pretty close. Do you see how we can use another object to help us measure the length of another object? Pretty great, right? Yes. Next one. Are you ready? Now, my next one is my math notebook, my friends. And my math notebook, I could measure 2 different ways. I can measure it lengthwise or height-wise, or I can measure it from side to side. Now, I'm going to measure it from side to side, just because. I feel like I've measured the height of things a lot, so I want to measure about how long it is from the side to the side. So I'm going to do about marks here so that I can actually show you in front of me, but you all should have some kind of a math notebook. Maybe it's a spiral notebook, but any kind of notebook you can measure this and make a good, educated guess. Now, my glue stick. If I use my body measurement, 1, 2, 3. It's about 3 inches. Now I gotta make sure. And look, if I start at my 0, it's about 3 inches. My glue stick is gonna be my object that I use to make an estimate. Okay? So, my glue stick is my tool. Shooby-doo. Glue stick equals 3 inches. Close, about. Now, I did that the wrong way. Estimate equals bloop inches. I'm gonna write notebook here. Notebook estimate and notebook actual equals inches. So I'm gonna make my estimate first, and then I can do my actual. So let's take a peek, huh? Here's 1 glue stick. Well, I feel like I can get about 2 glue sticks, and then maybe 1 more little inch from there. So I'm gonna guess 3, 3, and 7. Is it exact? No. Am I using what I know about this to help me measure this? 3 plus 3 plus 1 is 7. My estimate's going to be 7 inches. Okay? Now, shall we do the checking? Remember, it's important that we check because we want to make sure that our estimation is close. Aha, look at that, guys. Oops-a-daisy. Got so excited I moved it over to the side there a little bit. What do you notice? If I line that up right on my 0 and I go, it's about 7.5. That's pretty close. 7.5 inches. My estimate and my actual are very close together. So I know that it's a reasonable estimate. Can you all say the word reasonable? I'm going to write it right up here for you. A reasonable estimate means that it makes sense, okay? I wouldn't say that my marker is, I wouldn't say it's 5 centimeters. It would not be reasonable for my marker to be 5 of these pinkies. It also would not be reasonable for me to say that it's 5 feet. It would not even be reasonable for me to say that it's 1 yard. It's very important that I choose and I estimate using my correct unit, okay? So if I was to say, oh, I think that my notebook is 7. 7 what? 7 inches? 7 centimeters? 7 feet? 7 meters? Who knows? Our standard unit of measure has to be labeled so that we know how long something is, because each unit is so different. Between a pinky to our arm stretched out to here, or to our height from our feet to our neck. Those units are not created equal, and so it's important for us to be specific on the unit that we're measuring. Now, I have a friend, and his name is Eric, and he did some measuring. He actually measured a crayon. Now, I think I might have a crayon in here. There's my crayons. He measured a crayon, and he said, you know, I think my crayon is about 4 inches long. Okay? That's what his estimate was. About 4 inches. Now, if my post-it note is 2, doesn't seem very far-fetched, right? That his estimate is 4 inches. Okay? Here's his crayon, 4 inches. Crayon, zoop, zoop, zoop. Pointy crayon. Estimate 4 inches. Then he measured it. And his actual measurement, he said, the actual was, are you ready for this? 10 inches. So I have a question for you. I'm going to have 2 questions for you. The first one we're going to talk about together. The second one, I want you to write on an index card and tell me how you know, okay? Or what you think his mistake was. One of these is reasonable. One of them makes sense. One of them does not. Which do you think is more reasonable? His estimate of 4 inches or his actual with 10 inches? Tell me what you think is more reasonable. Put your thumb in front of your tummy when you think you know. Which one's more reasonable? 4 inches, which is his estimate, or 10 inches, which is his actual? Seeing some thumbs? If you think his actual is reasonable, raise your hand. If you think his estimate is more reasonable, raise your hand. Why do you think his estimate is more reasonable? Okay, because if a marker is 5 inches, then a crayon couldn't be more than that. So if the marker right here is 5 in, or if that marker is 4.5 inches, then this could not be 10 inches because it's shorter than my marker. What else do you think? 10 inches is this long. That's almost a whole foot. Is a crayon close to a whole foot? No. I like the things that you two were saying. One of you was thinking about the actual unit and the ruler and what that looks like. And the other one was looking at another object to use as kind of a benchmark, right? If this is this long, then this can't be longer than that. So then what I want you to be writing down on your index card is, what is Eric's mistake? So if this is more reasonable, where do you think he got his actual number from? He got his actual number from something. Use your tools to see if you can figure out what his error was. Happy problem solving, friends. I cannot wait to see if you can figure out what he did as his mistake. Remember, when you are estimating, you can estimate using your body benchmark, Or you can use what you know about other objects to help you make an estimation about how long something else is. If you know how long something like this is, you know how long a marker is. If you know how long this is, you can use it to make an estimate about how long something else is. You do not have to have a ruler with you at all times. You can use those benchmarks to help you make a reasonable estimate. That means it makes sense. A reasonable estimate about the length of something. Happy measuring, friends.